Most exchanges in a fight aren't lost because someone is slower. They're lost because both fighters hesitate at the same moment, and the fighter who breaks that hesitation first usually ends up controlling the entire exchange. What's interesting is that landing first in these moments has very little to do with speed or aggression. It has more to do with understanding the psychological standoff that happens when both fighters are waiting for the other one to move. When two fighters hesitate, they're basically stuck in a decision loop. Both of you are watching distance, reading reactions, and trying not to be the person who commits first. Nobody wants to throw a punch and walk straight into a counter. That's why beginner fights often look like two people circling, feinting, and waiting, but nothing really happens. But hesitation actually creates a predictable pattern. When both fighters pause, their attention is locked forward. Their weight is usually centered or slightly back, and mentally they're waiting for something to trigger the exchange. The fighter who creates that trigger usually controls what happens next. A lot of people think the answer is to explode faster, but that's usually the wrong approach. If you suddenly launch a big attack from complete stillness, it's easy to see coming. Your opponent is already focused on you, so large movements get noticed immediately. The smarter approach is to create a small disturbance first, something that forces your opponent to react before you commit to the real attack. Think of it like opening a small gap in their decision-making. One of the simplest ways to do this is with microfeints. Not dramatic fake punches, just subtle movements that look like the start of an attack. A slight shoulder twitch, a tiny step forward, a small lift of the lead hand. When you do this correctly, your opponent's brain has to process the possibility of an incoming strike. Even if they barely react, their attention shifts for a split second, and that tiny moment is where the real attack goes. For example, imagine both fighters standing at boxing range, neither throwing. If you fire a jab from complete stillness, it's easy for your opponent to see. But if you slightly dip your lead shoulder first, their brain reads jab. The moment they tense or prepare to defend, you send the real jab. You didn't win with speed, you won with timing. Another way to break hesitation is forward pressure without immediately attacking. Sometimes just stepping into range slowly forces your opponent to make a decision. They might step back, throw something, or freeze. Each reaction gives you information. If they step back, you've taken ground and can follow with a jab. If they throw something, you're ready to counter, because you expected a reaction. And if they freeze, that's usually your moment to strike first. You can also break hesitation by changing rhythm. When both fighters are waiting, the tempo becomes slow and predictable. If you suddenly introduce a quick movement, like a fast step in and out, or a sudden hand twitch, it interrupts that rhythm. Their brain has to reset for a moment, and during that reset, your real attack can slip through. If you watch experienced fighters closely, you'll notice something interesting. They almost never throw their first punch from complete stillness. There's usually a small movement first, a hand lift, a step, or a head movement. That movement isn't random, it's bait. Over time, something changes in sparring. When both fighters pause, you stop feeling stuck in the moment. Instead of waiting for the other person to go first, you start seeing opportunities to create reactions yourself, and that's the real skill. Landing first in hesitation moments isn't about being faster or more aggressive. It's about controlling attention, reactions, and timing. When both fighters freeze, the fight hasn't actually stopped. It's just waiting for someone who understands how to restart it on their terms. And if you can create that reaction instead of waiting for it, you become the fighter who decides when the exchange begins and the one who lands first when it does.